Welcome back to Dadvertising.
Howdy, partner.
Howdy.
Little foreshadowing for the topic of the episode.
There we go.
Cowboys.
Cowboys.
No, partners.
That Ringers Western hat has changed your whole demeanour and your whole...
You reckon?
Yeah, no. No, I'm only... No.
This was an ad hat, Instagram ad hat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was a quick buy.
It wasn't a quick buy. I'm very impulsive to click on things, but I'm slow to make a decision. I kind of see how good their retargeting is. And
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay.
If there's a product I want, I'll click on it, I'll check it out, and then I'll let them follow me up. Like there's a pair of gym shorts I'm going to buy. I just haven't bought them yet. But I'm seeing the ads every day.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now we know the secret into how to get Alex to buy shit.
Just
Retarget the fuck out of you.
Smash me with it until I buy it, yeah.
That's it. All right, so today we are talking about business partners. Having a business partner, pros, cons. Now, this actually came up because you have recently joined forces and started a business with Scott Waddell. And the reason I wanted to talk about this episode was I have had experience. I've never been in business with a partner other than this is probably this podcast is probably the closest thing that I've had to having a business partnership with someone. We don't make money off this podcast other than, potential leads and stuff like that. But for the most part, I've never been in business with a partner because I've heard horror stories. Without naming names and things like that, there's definitely I can recall at least 3 different examples where people were in business together and it didn't work out.
The Beatles. There's one.
Bands, yes. But I'm more so talking about in a smaller business, obviously, and even people that I've worked with, and also it made me really question this whole being in business with a partner made me question about being in business with Jess as well. And
your actual partner.
Yeah. But I actually find that there's a lot of things, because that's technically having I do technically have a business partner, but it's a little bit of a different scenario. There's different dynamics and things like that as well. And for me, whilst just talking about the intimate partner relationship, being in business together with your partner, it obviously has a different dynamic in the sense of Jess is more or less there to support me and vice versa. But by supporting me, I'm able to support her to be able to have more time, flexibility in picking the kids up and dropping off to school. On Fridays at our school, sometimes they do chapel and sometimes our kids are presenting, or depending on the week or depending on what's going on. And she, the kids, and then you've got sports carnivals and all those other things that we now get to be a part of or get to attend and things like that because we get to some degree, work our own schedules.
Yeah.
And things like that. But coming back to the topic of having a partner in business, I would love to get your take as to give us a bit of context and background as to how this business started with Scott.
Well, this particular one is Scott had a business and brought me in.
Okay.
So he realized he needed help, and then, he runs 2. He runs one big business and then started the second one, which was just a marketing agency done for you, and then realized that he was too busy to deliver all of it. So asked me if I wanted to come in. Here we are. But not my first business partner. I've had a business before this in the hospitality industry, in the cafe and catering, and that was a proper 50-50 down the middle. 200 bears. And that was a proper... We both put money in.
I just want to stop you right there for one moment. I got to find out why it's called 2 Hungry Bears the other day.
Yeah.
So I called you Possum just randomly the other day.
Yes.
And then you were telling me you call Ali Possum, she calls you Bear, and then
Maury Bear.
And then your business partner was called Bear as well.
Yeah, his partner called him some variation of Bear.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then that's how Two Hungry Bears started.
Exactly. We were chefs.
There you go.
We were both bears.
There you go.
Everyone thought we were a gay couple. Possum. See, I have a wedding ring, which is a tattoo of a paw print on my ring finger. Because I knew I'd lose my wedding ring. Lo and behold,
I lost my wedding ring in Hawaii.
There you go. Of course.
In California, but yes.
Don't give a piece of jewellery to a man. No. Although you kept the piece of jewellery I gave you.
Oh, yes. There we go.
Take that, Jess. But this is meant to be representative of a possum paw print.
Yes.
But possum feet look like rat's feet. So this is just like a generic paw print on my finger. But yeah, Ali's possum, I'm the bear. Two Hungry Bears. I think the 50-50 partnership, I think that's a tricky one. That's both same amount of money in, same amount of money out, and you kind of expect to do exactly the same amount of work. And the big problem with that one is that there's there's no decision maker.
Yeah.
You both have to come to an agreement on something. So there's always often a compromise. And so, yeah, with the partnership I'm in now with Strott, he's kind of essentially majority partner of it. So I'm in it. He's still sort of my boss to an extent,
but he has the final say.
Yeah. He's more experienced.
Can I ask what the percentage is?
No.
Okay.
No. But it is. But yes, Strott is basically my. He's running the thing.
Yeah.
I'm there supporting. Yeah. And helping to run it. So that's because I was brought in. But I think it's very, very natural for two guys, two girls to be best mates, have an idea, we should do this thing, and it sounds all great, and you go and do it, and you both put money in, it's the most exciting thing ever. Things happen. That's where it can get a bit dangerous, is when it's just two mates doing a thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the horror stories come from.
Yeah.
Especially when it's two people.
Yeah.
Because there's at the end of the day, it can't be a majority decision on anything.
Well, can you tell me more about like Two Hungry Bears and why you exited that?
Yeah, 100%. So Two Hungry Bears, the story of that one was we were both working in a restaurant together. We were great mates, and we were working in this Italian restaurant, and then one of us, I can't remember who it was, maybe me, had the idea of why don't we start just catering to parties on the side. And so we started off just advertising locally in Facebook groups. We did a couple of like 21st birthdays, engagement parties at people's houses. Started getting busy. The restaurant started getting pissed off at us that we were needing to take more and more time off to cater. So we were like, okay, fuck it. We'll quit our jobs and we'll get a location, and we'll have like a base where we can actually trade Monday to Friday and then cater on the weekends.
Yeah.
So we got a cafe just around the corner here. We found a cafe that was in an industrial estate. So it was a Monday to Friday, really simple. We had like an office building on top, warehouses below it, contained audience, didn't need much marketing, just needed to make good, solid, simple food every day, and we were fine. And so that was the cafe. And so it actually made decent money because it was low expenses. It was just us two and a guy who we employed to like wash dishes and make a bit of coffee. Two of us, Monday to Friday, simple, very, very simple. And the problem was with that one was that, well, firstly, Clinton and I, my business partner, who is like my best friend in the world, love him to bits. And this is the funny thing. Best mates before, best mates after, bit of animosity during the actual partnership. Yeah. And that's because you have different ideas about things.
Yeah.
And when you decide to do something, then
you've got to have the other person buy in.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you think, and it's little things here and there, like what special should we do today? I want to do a burger, I want to do a pasta. That's fine. But when it comes down to, pricing, when it comes down to decisions about, even like if one of us had not an altercation, but had a disagreement with a customer, was that...
Yeah, getting some coaching as to like, did you really need to say that, or you could have done this, exactly. You could have not said that. Yeah.
Exactly. Was that justified?
Yeah.
Now we've lost business from that person. Sometimes, yeah, absolutely, they were being a dick, and sometimes I was being a dick,
yeah.
or
Exactly.
And so The actual reason I left that business, it wasn't to do with money or anything. It was just because I was getting really itchy. I was like 24.
Yeah.
I was getting real ambitious. Let's get more locations and stuff. And he was like, it's fine. It's making money. It's a business. It's solid. And so I was trying to get ahead of myself, run before I could walk. And because of the nature of that business being a contained environment, we couldn't really grow it. We couldn't really do dinners. We couldn't really do weekends. It was just in a warehouse complex in Brookvale. That frustrated me a little bit. And so I think that just started to make a little wedge, a little crack. And that's grew over time to the point where I was like, listen, man, like, I think you take the cafe, I'll bail. And so that's what we did. And it took a while and it was a bit of a messy situation. But as soon as we split up, we were best mates again.
Yeah.
And have been since. So, and then he's gone and run with it and made it his thing with no other decision makers. He's done his thing. It's wildly successful now.
Yeah.
You know, crushing it.
So it transformed from a cafe to a burger joint over time.
Yes. We were already selling burgers, right?
Yeah.
Because we were chefs running a cafe, we did really good food. Like our food was, it was all homemade, fancy, rustic food. It was really great. And we always had burgers on the menu, and we were kind of expanding that menu a bit to we realized people love the burgers, good money spinner. So we had 3 or 4 different ones. Mm-hmm. And then when I left, what he did was, this was right around the time of Uber Eats.
Yep.
And so we realized that no one's coming in, but if I get on Uber Eats, all the people in the area, or the mechanics, or the delivery men, or the car salesman, they'll order. So we started doing that. And we'd always try to get them on board to order from us. Yep. No one did. He started getting orders from outside. And so he started expanding the burger menu. Then he got an Instagram guy who was a bit of an influencer around here, started taking shots of it. It grew. And then over time, he was doing, Friday nights, he was doing 300 burgers on a Friday night.
Yeah. From
this random little kitchen in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so, then he opened a bigger shop, and then a second one now is, he's doing great stuff. But it was, that probably wouldn't have been the vision I'd gone with.
Yeah.
I probably would have said, no, let's do more pasta.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever I was more into at the time.
Yeah.
And who knows what would have happened. So I think that in that 50-50 situation, bro, it's, you got to be super patient. And I think with that, time, experience, maturity, all things you don't have when you're in your early 20s.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm curious now to know is, it doesn't sound like you regret your time in that phase. It obviously you learned a lot, and it was a great experience. You're still mates with Clinton. So would you, if you're in the, I know that now that you're in the marketing game, you're super happy and everything else, but would you ever enter into a 50-50 business, whether it's in that or even in marketing in general? And if so, what would you do differently?
I think I wouldn't enter into another 50-50 business outside of it, definitely outside of marketing, because if I was going to partner in anything, I'd want to be more of a consulting sort of partner now. Yeah. A kind of situation where they've got a restaurant, I do all the online stuff for the restaurant. Yeah. And then they run the kitchen.
Yeah.
That could be done.
Well, it's effectively what you're doing now is to a degree that it's obviously there's an implementation side of it. You're consulting, you're implementing. You're obviously not a stakeholder in a business, via percentage or something like that, but you are obviously, in some degree, a marketing department on behalf of some of the businesses that you work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I can, and with this new agency with Scott, we have revenue share agreements with some people, that sort of thing as well. Yep. So that's really fun. I think that's a great model. I think ultimately, in my experience, someone has to be a decision maker. Yeah. And someone else needs to be able to accept the fact that they're not the decision maker. Yeah. And that is fine.
What did you so obviously I'm sure this would have, all of these questions would have come up before you said yes to Scott. So did Scott I'm assuming Scott approached you?
Yeah.
And so What was the do you mind sharing what was the conversation you had with Scott? Like, what ground rules did you say, if you will, these are the boundaries, or what did he say? What are some of the boundaries that you put in place to make sure this is a fruitful relationship?
I don't know. It kind of happened over time. It was kind of started off as a conversation almost like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Just like, he was always coaching me on my business, and then it actually started off him saying maybe I could come into your business on like a consulting basis.
Yeah.
And that was the original version of it.
Yeah.
And then he started his agency, and after like Christmas, when we'd kind of been saying that for ages, I was like, hey man, just like, you did say this a while ago. Did you have any thoughts about that coming into my business? And then he was like, yeah, I think there's a capacity where we can work together. So we got on a phone call and he kind of presented this option to me. And then he's like, this is it. And I go, why are you doing this? Basically, because this is a guy who's further ahead in business, more experience, more financial success, all sorts of stuff. Why are you doing this? He said, I need a partner. I need time. I need delivery. I just need someone else on my team. Otherwise I can't do it. So, yeah, then various versions of agreements came out, but I was just pretty happy with all of it, because the main boundary I said was, listen, dude, like, you're a single dude who got a partner.
You've said this before, yes.
Yeah, you work all the time. It's your favorite thing. I literally can't. I can't do, pre-9 and post-4 most days.
Yeah.
You know, I can't jump on a call in the evenings or on the weekends very often. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. You know, so it was more so around just acknowledging that he's going into business with someone who's very, very different lifestyle and responsibilities to him.
Yeah.
Because you can run two businesses at once. Running a business and parenting.
Yeah.
They don't, you can't do them both in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was more so what it was, the conversation at first. And I think it's a pretty, like, hats off to him. He's incredibly patient for a guy with no kids, incredibly patient to someone with kids.
Yeah. All right. My next question is, has the decision to partner in with Scott's business impacted your business at all?
No. All it does is it does make me think about the future of both of them, because ultimately me running 100% of one and me running, say, I don't know, 40% of another one, that sort of thing, or whatever, however we'd split up the workload, it's, I will split my attention one day. So there's a conversation to be had there, depending on how fast each of them grows, but, I don't think it's taking my time away from my business, because once again, like your holiday, I have a team who does a lot of my delivery for me. I hop in between this podcast. I've been directing people, managing people, and I just have to hop in and do some phone calls and write some ad copy every now and then for my business. So the rest of it's pretty much taken care of. Now it's a funny situation right now. Yeah. A lot of split attention, but it is ultimately all doing the same thing. It's not like I've got a marketing agency and I've started a restaurant. It can all be done in Slack, in Ads Manager, in the same chair, the same camera, microphone. It's all basically the same thing. So it's almost like I've taken on like just some new clients into my business.
For you personally, has it actually increased your take home or your cash flow overall?
I mean, it will.
So there's a part, like there's a process.
Yeah, we had a really good first month.
Yeah.
But I haven't like figured out my structure just yet as to, how that works. But promising first month.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And that's a developing conversation as well.
Yeah, of course.
Because you never know going in.
Yeah.
You never know going into a business what's going to happen. But this one we're pretty confident.
Yeah.
And so we're on a real like kind of let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Attitude right now, which is fun.
So as someone who's obviously had experience in a 50-50 business, even like I want to reflect on even the decision of putting this podcast together.
Yeah.
So for those listening, the way that this whole podcast started was we're on a film day And then you and I were talking about, and I still want to run an event one day, but we're talking about running an event, like almost like a boardroom style workshop where we're just working very intimately or directly with people who are interested in like getting their marketing sorted or videos, something along those lines. But then I'm pretty sure it was my idea to say, hey, it'd be really cool to have a podcast together.
Yeah, it was you.
And then, but you came up with the name. I fucking loved Dadvertising. I loved it.
Good.
Yeah, it was really cool. But even like, you know what I've really liked about this is I tend to be an overthinker, whereas you've just gone and executed, like you did a lot of the graphics. We've obviously covered like the filming, the editing and those sorts of things, and obviously the publishing and whatnot. But for the most part, we haven't really had to like, I think the biggest thing that we sort of go back and forth on is what we're going to talk about. But like there's not really like, we haven't had any intense conversations. It's just been very chill. This has honestly been one of the best experiences, and it's felt like a natural extension. Yeah. I think if there was money involved, maybe it would be a little bit different. Maybe not. Maybe it'd just be more of the same.
We've got there is a little bit of money involved in the way that your team, you pay your team to edit and I pay for the room. Mm-hmm. Like
which will change because by the end of which, by the way, I haven't had this conversation with you, but by the end of this month, May. Yeah. My goal is to have my podcast room ready at my house.
Yes. So good.
Yeah.
So you make me drive to the coast.
Yes.
I love it. I can do it. That's so good, man.
So, but
Well, in this relationship here, you and I, very defined roles. Yeah. Really. Like most of the time, like you said, can you handle kind of the song and the branding and stuff like that? So I went and did that. Yeah. And then, we rock in here. I book the room. Yeah. We rock in. You bring your camera and then you go. And then I kind of wait and we go back and forth on the names of the podcast. But I think defined roles is the main thing.
Yes.
Because if it gets messy, like, who's meant to be writing this? Who's meant to be on this call? If it's like, okay, you're in charge of, in an agency vibe, you're in charge of client relationships and managing the team. I'm in charge of copywriting and overall strategy. Yeah. That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And just knowing those things, it makes it really easy. I think that a lot of probably early on businesses, you don't know what roles to define because you haven't 100%. Done a business before. Yeah. And that's probably where a lot of the nightmares come in. Yeah. I think when you come back from Fiji, I want to talk more about marketing this podcast. But we should do it. That'd be fun. And 100%. But I think the main thing with the partnership thing is it's like a marriage in the sense that it starts off ideas and passion and excitement. Yep. And then just admin and logistics come into it and responsibilities. Yeah.
And then a couple of bum slaps in between.
Exactly. Yes. You stroked me lightly on the hip out there while I was making you a coffee.
Make it sound sexual.
It was a little bit. That's how I took it. Little shiver up the leg.
It was nothing of that sort.
No, it was too public out there. Yeah. Tricky. In this room, no one can hear us scream.
No.
No, it's
nice and soundproofed.
We're recording the entire thing.
Nice and soundproofed, yes.
Yeah, man. So what outside of a couple of horror stories, has there ever been an opportunity presented to you to have a partner?
Honestly, not really. Like I've thought, like for me, I have thought about probably very similar to you in the sense of like there is one person who I did think about, would I ever give up equity in my business to have someone come in and drive it? Like, and I'll just continue with the delivery or whatnot. Or like there was a sales guy. I mentioned like I had a horrible experience with a sales coach. Yeah. He had an opportunity where he could have bought in, and I'm glad that lasted 2.5 months, and I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that I would like to work, and it's sort of like, even after this trip to the US, I'm really happy with the space and time there's always opportunity to build more and bring on more clients and more revenue. And this is the thing, right? You're talking about this before in your business, is that when things start to get like a little bit quiet, you're just like, let's do more. Like let's add more. And not in all cases, but sometimes it can be a level of like almost like not being happy, not being complacent, or being too complacent. But also it can be a level of like you're uncomfortable with being that level or that standard or of standing still and just enjoying or being present. So almost to a degree, it can become a little bit of an insecurity, right? But for me, I've been in business, so this will be, I'm in my 5th year of business, and from all observations in a 50-50 relationship where it's not an intimate partner, for the most part, there are very little businesses that I've seen thrive over a long period of time, over the long term.
Interesting.
Yeah. And for that reason, I like the fact that, like, even though I've considered it, I don't know that I necessarily have anyone who I'd want to bring on. I once did have a business coach who told me that if I wanted to, like, they sort of set out this big business plan that, like, because at one stage I did want to go into the US.
Yeah.
And he sort of set out a business plan on, like, these are the steps that we would take. You'd need to have a C-suite. And then, like, it's basically a very, very broad plan on how to be a $10 million business.
Do you need a C-suite?
No,
not at all.
And this is the thing. Like, I'm content with being a dad. I'm content with enjoying, like, my life and things like that. And also, like, I was thinking about it yesterday, and I literally had the conversation with a client who was doing a deep dive, who I'm filming with in Melbourne next week. Is like, I wouldn't have the time and space to be able to, like, have genuine curiosity and genuine conversations if I was too busy trying to build and grow. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It is. I've just chosen to have this business in this way because it suits me. It suits Jess. And, you know, there's potentially money that I'm leaving on the table. I can almost guarantee that I'm leaving money on the table, but I'm okay with it.
The season that you're in right now, you know, there's always a time and a place to do. There's always more time.
Yeah.
It's always more time to do things.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen when your kids go to high school.
Yeah.
And they don't want to hang out with you anymore.
It does really interest me, the dynamics around what you're doing right now, because it makes me think, if I wasn't a business owner, like if I didn't run my own standalone business, would I approach someone like To The Moon Digital and go, I want to, like, my business isn't running the way that it needs to, but I want to just work with you and complement you on all of the things that you do by doing video content, which we sort of do in a degree, but it's like a straight referral. There's no, like, money exchanged or anything else. Like, we've just referred business to each other and whatnot as well. It does make me sort of think, you know, if I wasn't running a business, would I want to go and just partner with someone to have that little bit more security or, you know, just be able to stay in my zone of genius and not have to worry about all the details as well.
Just be a videographer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think that is that's always it. Like, that's the, what's the book? The E-Myth.
Yeah.
The E-Myth is all about, you got into business to do a thing, and you're good at that thing, and now you do all these other things that you don't enjoy doing because that's running the business. And sometimes, having a partner can allow you to just do the thing you're good at.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot, actually, I imagine, I know it happens a lot in restaurants.
Yeah.
Where you'll have a chef, owner-operator with a financer.
Yeah.
You know, and so the restaurant group I used to work for, there was one guy who owned all the restaurants, and everything he touched turned to gold, kind of like a Maryvale sort of vibe, but more fancy.
Yep.
And then he'd hire chefs, and over time, if the chef proved himself, he would make the chef partner in the business.
Yeah, right.
Give the chef like 20% of it, that sort of thing, or like 15% or whatever. And so that chef just has to be a chef, but then their commitment level goes through the roof, and now they've got more stake in it, so it incentivizes them. And I think that was always a really interesting thing to see. Like I would see these chefs pre being a partner and post being a partner, and just their dynamic changed a little bit, but they were still just doing what they were good at, but didn't have to handle all the other shit.
Yeah.
You know, so they're being incentivized to stay and be committed to this business without having to handle tax and without having to handle zoning and, you know, all the boring shit that comes with owning a physical location. Yeah. And so I thought that was really interesting. And so, you know, like what you said there, the problem is with you, it probably flipped the other way around. You know, you wouldn't want to bring someone in to finance your business, then you go from 100% to 20%. So you could be a videographer.
Yeah. Well, like even like I think the thing is that you can get a little bit. All right. So it's a great point, because there was one stage in the last 12 months actually where I was like, I'm really poor with numbers. I'm not great with numbers. And it makes me think, do I need to bring in a business partner who's great with numbers? And it's like, well, no, that's not the case. I can actually hire in this case, I hired a zero coach. She's like she's the equivalent of a business coach around money, or money coach and whatnot.
Zero, the software.
The software. Yeah, so she's sort of like a money zero coach.
Like a bookkeeping expert.
Yeah. Helps with accounting, but also helps with because we had some big tax debts.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
And a couple of other things, like we've got some personal stuff as well. Nothing that's like we can't work with and things like that, but just need help. Like, where do we start? Where do we go? And then on top, like, are we actually, you know, maintaining being profitable, and what services are we offering that are not actually working, or like just a general overview of money, cash flow, what's coming in, what's going out, and just being observant, forecasting the future, all the things to do with numbers that I was not doing. And I managed to do that without having to give someone a stake in the business or all of those other things that you think you need to do. Yeah. But there are coaches, there are people who specialize in specific things for those specific roles. And you don't necessarily need to bring someone into the business. In some cases, you might need to. Some people want a stake or a percentage or whatever the case is. But in other cases, sometimes you just need to isolate the issue that you want to address and address it without thinking, And for me, it was the numbers. It was forecasting, understanding our numbers, understanding our services, understanding cash flow, things like that. And then going from there. So,
well, this is something that actually Scott and I are really passionate about, and we're talking through. It's a big part of our marketing message right now, is that scaling a business, one of the best ways of doing that, something that he and I have realized over the years, is that having a performance-driven team is really, really key. And as opposed to hiring C-suite employees who are always, no matter how good they are, it's an employee mindset. It's going to be different. They've got to be onboarded and trained. But bringing in, like if you'd hired an internal bookkeeper to manage all that stuff, you got to train them on your stuff, you know? But she is a coach who you've hired externally. It's like having a sales team. Rather than having an in-house people on the payroll who sit and call, having a sales agency is kind of like a really great non-committal partner. Sales agency comes in, they take 20% of sales or whatever. Marketing agency who comes in, they take, 5% of sales plus 5% of ad spend, whatever, because they're entrepreneurial-minded people already. They don't have to onboard to your systems and come and work at your office and train. They're already trained. They're good at what they do, and they come in and they are incentivized by helping your business grow, as opposed to an employee who's not really. They're incentivized by showing up for their paycheck. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with employees, but a simpler way of doing it seems to be that, like you said, there's services out there who you can bring in and either pay them on a retainer or get them involved in the profit share a little bit.
Yep.
And that's almost like a really simple way of not only testing out if you want to have a partner, but maybe eliminating the need for it altogether. So
it's actually given me some really good thoughts. Like, it's some really good ideas moving forward.
Well, you know, we've talked about you getting a sales agency heaps of times, right? Like, and you've had salespeople in the past.
Well, yeah, but even like, you know how you were referring to the Marigold example of, like, you know, opening up the
Maryvale.
The Maryvale example of opening up different restaurants.
Yes.
It's a really interesting idea of, even the equivalent of that for me would be, you know, working directly with a videographer and giving them a profit share into what we're doing, so that they not only promote, like, they can get involved in the marketing and see the benefits.
And they stay forever.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's just clicking in my head now. Yeah.
So there you go. So does a partner need to be an on paper, we're both putting money in together, or can it be a team that you bring in who are already entrepreneurial driven, on the ground? They've started their business anyway. Yeah. You know, so can you find someone like that? And I think that there's a million people out there, freelancers and all sorts, who you can say, listen, like, we'll start you off on a retainer, and then, you know, in 3 months' time, there's a potential to take 5%. Yeah. Or whatever. And then that's kind of what we're doing with a few of our clients now on the ads side of things. And it just makes it so much more compelling for everyone. Yeah. Like, you know, oh, this person's making sales. Amazing. That's actually more for us. And then everyone's winning, you know. A rising tide lifts all ships, that sort of thing. Yeah. And man, I think that in terms of partnerships, I think there's definitely business structure. Sole trader is tough. Partnership, I dare say, is tougher. 50-50 partnership, really tough. And then, but I think there's creative solutions in a day in this, like, gig economy. So many services and agencies. I think you can manage without
100%,
but still almost have a team at the same time. And for 100%. Me, I need that team. I thrive on the team, the accountability with this podcast, you know, keeping it going, the regularity. And I think it's funny, man, different for everyone, but that's been my experience. I've had one partnership that, to be fair, I probably broke it apart. And then one right now that I'm really loving. And then this one, you and I think it's all, I think I work a lot better in a team. Maybe that's because I come from restaurants where it's a team environment.
And you're a people person. You bounce off people. It's the same with me. Yeah, you bounce off the right people, and it's important to choose the right people as well. Like, you know what?
That's a whole episode.
Yes. Yeah. Well, even there are people who even before I presented the podcast idea to you, I'd already thought about, like, in full transparency, I'd already thought about other people who I would be open to doing it with.
No. And then, let's call them now. Yeah. Live on the show.
But I love our energy, and that's why I hadn't spoken to it about anyone else except for you, is because you've got to be, like, because it's a whole process. Like, even after the first filming recording session, we didn't even use the episodes because I was like, I'm just not feeling it. Yeah. Like, but then I after a couple of days, I was like, no, I actually know what the problem is. Like, I wasn't prepared. I need to be prepared, and I need to think about what I'm doing, and we just needed a trial run.
Yeah, and it's worked out perfect. Yeah. I'm having a blast, man. Yeah, I'm having a blast with the show, our notes, and we're getting better at not following the notes and still making a good show sometimes.
Absolutely.
I refer to the music episode.
The last one, we weren't even planning it.
Yeah, we just talked about emo music and Drake the whole time, and it was dope. But we brought it back. So yeah, man, that's my partnership thoughts.
Interesting.
I personally thrive in it. Gets me out of my head. Yeah. And for yourself, there's options on the table. Yeah. I can see the light bulbs whirring. The cogs turning. The cogs are turning.
100%.
The ducks are lining in a row.
So I would love your, if you're listening, have listened so far, would love your thoughts, opinions, especially on YouTube where you can leave comments.
Yes.
Are you in business? Have you ever considered being in business? I know that you can leave comments on Spotify as well.
Can you?
I think so. I'm sure you can.
You can leave reviews. Should we know that?
No, you definitely. All right,
He's putting
98% sure you can leave a comment on Spotify because someone did.
Cards on the table.
Yeah. So
let me get a Spotify comment.
Yeah.
How good.
Yeah, it was just a great episode. It wasn't anything fancy.
I love that.
But I think you need to be subscribed or follow the podcast to be able to leave a comment on it.
There you go. There's the caveat. Please subscribe.
So make sure you subscribe. But we would love to know, have you been in business with someone before?
Yes.
If so, was it successful? What was your experience? We would love to know.
Yeah, we would. We would love to know everything about what you guys are into in terms of, do you like the business stuff, the dad stuff, the bad stuff?
And just in general, the podcast, any general feedback.
Because we're doing our best to make content that we think you'll like, because all we can do is talk about our own lives, right? And so... Yeah, a bit of dads, bit of kids, bit of football, and bit of this, that.
Yeah. But so far we've had some really good feedback. We've had, I definitely have conversations with people who refer to, I listened to your podcast, Alan. I was like, okay. Like sometimes I'm having the same conversation, and they're like, I listened to your podcast. Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
that's mad. I love it. Well, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, team.
Thank you, Alan, partner, podcast partner.
Thank you, partner. Howdy, partner.
Bye.